news events like Boris Yeltsin stepping aside in Russia while everybody else is celebrating in a different way. It's been a fantastic, fantastic outpouring.
And a peaceful transition of power, no less, which is really quite impressive. That's a new age right there.
Mr. Yeltsin, in fact, saying that he wanted Russia to be able to get on with its national life as it was entering a new age. Well, this is a contrast to Times Square.
Scott and Gwen?
A useful one.
Yes, Rick.
We're going not from Easter Island to New York, but I hear we're going to Peru here in just a few seconds. This party just does not go away. Peru. Countdown to Lima. This is an Incan festival of the moon. Staged in an Incan temple overlooking the city of Cusco. We have a torch-lit parade, chariots, rituals, all from the ancient Incan culture.
Flaming wheels, that you don't see every day.
Y2K compliant, too, evidently.
It's appropriate on this eve of the third millennium to be looking at pre-Columbian culture, I would say. And now we're back to Miami. We were here with the Bee Gees a few minutes ago.
Gloria Estefan, I believe, is scheduled to sing.
We're looking forward to a little Gloria Estefan, a little Miami sound machine. They certainly know how to party in Miami. Ah, but this is the Gypsy Kings. Even just as good or better. They're playing a little Bob Marley, which somehow is fitting.
I think we heard the song tonight from a couple of other locations, haven't we? Was it from Tobago?
Well, the song One Love, One Heart is a song of unity.
Get together and feel alright. One love, one heart. Let's get together and feel alright. Let's get together and feel alright. Diga que sigan con su vanidad, y por eso que voy a preguntar, ¿será perdonado aquel pecador que ha traicionado a la humanidad? One love, one heart, let's get together and feel alright. One love, one heart, let's get together and feel alright. Let's get together and feel alright. Todos juntos contra el juicio final. Nunca más desgracia por el nuevo mundo. Ofrezca tu piedad a los ser felices y no te oculta de nuestro Creador. One love, one heart, let's get together and feel alright.
11:57, 3 minutes left in this millennium
One heart,
as the Gypsy Kings sing in Miami.
together and feel alright.
That's Eastern Standard Time.
Together and feel alright. One love, one heart, let's get together and feel alright. One love.
Of course, as the millennium spreads across the United States, we'll be celebrating with you as we go west from the East Coast. Right now, the Gypsy Kings with their pop-oriented flamenco, Sevillana.
Apparently, this is the song they want to take into the new century.
Miami is as close to an example of a city in the United States that has a multicultural influence as any. You can find anything you want there, and it's a city you can visit and sometimes feel as if you're in a foreign country. It's so vibrant, so lively.
It's an American city that's also a Latin American capital city at the same time, commercially, culturally.
And politically.
And politically.
Until they feel all right.
I believe Times Square is going to take the center stage here as we count the last couple of minutes down on the east coast of the United States before the new millennium.
As it has since 1904, as I recall, was the first time they brought the ball down in Times Square. And of course, I don't know how modest an affair it was back at the beginning of the 20th century. But what we're seeing tonight, of course, is going to be an amazing piece of machinery that has been being constructed for years. And here we are.
Looks like a capacity crowd, the biggest crowd ever at Times Square.
That ball is 77 feet above the building at One Times Square. It's made of Waterford crystal. It's going to drop slowly, and we're going to see a new millennium enter. Here it goes.
Seconds.
Mayor Rudolph Giuliani. And millions of people chanting along with the countdown we're all waiting for. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Millennium to them.
Thanks for having me.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, everyone. Nice to spend it with you.
New York going wild. Now we're going to be going from New York to Washington, D.C.
That's the Washington Monument. It is ablaze.
Looking now at Washington, D.C. at the mall. Two grand spectacles on the east coast of the United States, New York and Washington.
This is supposed to be the largest fireworks show ever given in that location. And I wouldn't contradict it.
Flock of birds that just flew by there, I think, had the best view.
Look at the confetti, the largest confetti.
Wired cameras.
If you notice that the Washington Monument looks a little odd, it's because it has kind of a blue cloth scaffolding over it while it undergoes renovation. You can't see it right now, but while it undergoes renovation back in New York. Times Square. Those people started getting there this morning at the crack of dawn, and some of them must be welded to the floor by now.
And I think whatever time zone you're in the United States, nothing heralds the arrival of a new year, much less a new century, like this scene in Times Square. Well, and perhaps
well
that.
said. I don't know how anyone's going to get home or if anyone's going to want to go home from Times Square tonight. I think they're just going to sit there and pretty much jump straight up and down. There's no room to stroll.
I think nowadays they all agree to clean up before they leave, though. They're going to be picking up, I'm sure, before they get to the subway.
Millennium Manners. New York going wild.
And of course, the strains of Old Lang Syne, which we've also heard around the world today, but somehow, for some reason, at midnight in my hometown, it begins to really ring true.
Sometimes there's nothing that can improve on silence.
which actually looks quite garish even on a normal day.
Yeah,
It seems
that's the
perfectly
idea of
suited
Times
for
Square.
this. Exactly, it's perfectly suited. But back in Washington, this is the reflecting pool, I believe, right outside the Lincoln Memorial that runs this down the mall toward.
Oh, mercy. I hope that was playing.
This was actually playing a few moments earlier. This is how it started. The president lit that fuse went down the reflecting pool, lit the Washington Monument. Look at that, that's amazing. While we were watching the ball drop in New York, this is what was happening in Washington, D.C. Spectacular. The National Park Service, which actually controls that, had objected to that for a while. Now it's hard to remember why. Now we're on to Canada.
Looks like Toronto or Montreal in Canada here.
Yeah, Toronto's in the central time zone, if I'm not mistaken. So.
I think this is Toronto, celebrating its midnight. Glorious display of fireworks there.
Yes, there would be. That'd be Lake Ontario there.
Coming across Lake Ontario there. Live in Toronto now. Canadians really celebrating the new year. Streets filled with people along the waterfront there. In Canada's biggest city, capital of Ontario. And we're back to Easter Island. No fireworks there, just hula skirts and a few torches and some mysterious statues.
Do you have any idea what time it is in Easter Island?
Easter Island with some fireworks, 2,300 miles off the coast of Chile. And now we go to the Inca Temple in Peru. Overlooking the city of Cusco in the southern Andes.
Para que llegue a ti.
Dancers with the fireworks, begging for good fortune from the gods and bidding farewell to the old millennium, hoping for the best in the new. Peru. we return to Miami. Just after midnight now, still some festivities going on.
Somehow I expected All Inside to have kind of a beat in my
Right, I expected that. They turned that part of it.
The crowd filling Miami Beach. Easter Islands or Miami. This is back to, obviously, Times Square. The mob savoring the fantastic display of celebration, fireworks, confetti. I think the party's just started there in New York. Phenomenal series of celebrations as we've swept across the globe. And the Millennium sweep continues as we move westward across the United States. But right now, the focus is on New York. And the Gypsy Kings are still playing back in Miami. Bandoleo.
Ese amor llega así, de esta manera. No tenés la culpa. Caballo de sabana, porque muy despreciado, por eso no te perdono llorar. Ese amor llega así, de esta manera.
The band actually started out in the 1970s in Arles, a small town in southern France. A couple of brothers, the sons of famous flamenco artists, teamed up with their cousins and started out a gypsy band, traveling all around the countryside, playing at weddings and festivals and so on, playing in the streets. They're not gypsies, because they lived so much like gypsies, the band adopted that name, the Gypsy Kings.
Porque mi vida yo la prefiero vivir así.
It's a good 10 years before their popularity really took off.
verdad. Por eso un día no cuenta así de nada, lo mismo ya callé, lo mismo soy yo. No te cuenta la mano. Eres posible, no te encuentro de verdad. Por eso un día no cuenta así de nada, lo mismo ya callé, lo pienso en ti. Bambolea, que mi vida yo no sé que me diga así. Bambolea, porque mi vida yo no sé que me diga así. Oiga, bambolea, porque mi vida yo no sé que me diga así. Bambolea, porque mi vida yo no sé que me diga así.
Okay, well, I've been with you for 8 hours here. I've been your globe-trotting Millennium tour guide. I'm Rick Steves from Travels in Europe, and I hope you've enjoyed our travels on public television. We've got 13 new shows coming out this new year, and I'd love to be your travel partner plenty in the future. And I want to wish each of you a happy new year and a happy millennium and happy travels. And now I'm about to turn over the reins of Earth Station Central down here to Susan Rook, who will celebrate the millennium as it cuts across the rest of the United States. Happy New Year.
From our nation's capital and around the globe, this is PBS Millennium 2000.
WRET-TV, Channel 49, Spartanburg, South Carolina.
Hi, I'm Gwen Eiffel, still here in Washington at PBS Millennium 2000 Central, this time surrounded by two men in black ties, Scott Simon from National Public Radio on my right, and joining us, oh my goodness, for the rest of the evening and to take you through the West Coast, comedian Will Durst. Hi, Will.
Hi, how you guys doing?
We're having a great time. We were just dancing to the Gypsy Kings.
I think I want to spend the next millennium in Miami, by the way.
That's just
based
so
on
you
all
know.
available appearances we had.
Do you think we can get PBS to send us down to Miami?
Oh,
No.
I wouldn't plan on it at all, as a matter of fact, no. Baltimore,
San
perhaps.
Baltimore, all the way
Baltimore,
to the
perhaps,
Inner
which is a
Harbor.
fine city. Exactly.
So, Will, we've spent the entire day doing incredibly meaningful things. We've been watching sunrises in Sri Lanka and dancers in the Easter Island. And
Several
we've been
different
watching
weddings.
Many different weddings. We've
Bungee
been-
jumps.
Not one Y2K glitch except our own, and we
That's
occasionally would lose our international feed. But
Yeah.
generally, it's been a fabulous day. How are you going to plan on topping that tonight?
Well, what we're going to do is we're going to follow all the people from Times Square, the 2 million people, go to the bathroom right now because they're leaving Times Square. And you know, the middle of Times Square doesn't have that many open restaurants right now. So I think that's what we're going to do. It's a little documentary. We're going to follow them around. We tagged a couple of their ears so we'll be able to track them.
You won't be upset if I'm not watching in that case.
But it should be a good time as it moves to Chicago, as it moves to Denver, it moves to San Francisco, where I guess you live, and
I
Los
get all
Angeles.
the parties. I get Vegas, I get New Orleans, I get San Francisco.
It's a little more slim after it leaves San Francisco and LA, if I'm not mistaken, for an hour or so.
The
but
last
that's
3
the
hours,
cruise ship, maybe.
we have Nome
Yeah.
for an entire hour. I think we're doing an entire hour in Nome. And then we have Hawaii, and I think we close out an American Samoa, which is just right here. It's right here. Actually, I don't know if you can see it.
I'm not looking. I'm not
It's right that
looking.
side
So it
of
is.
the international trade date timeline.
Well, you know what? We trust you, and if there's any, you can just try out new material, basically, right? If there's any dead.
That's right. It's material for a new millennium.
It really is an honor to be here. don't
Although
you
it's
think?
not a new millennium, you know
It's
that.
I have heard this controversy going on ever since we first mentioned the millennium, and all I can say is I appreciate everybody else's position, and they're going to be pretty lonely when they decide to have a party next year at this time.
See, I totally disagree with you, Mr. Senator.
I figured you would.
I think that the champagne industry is going to tell us that this was the faux millennium. The real millennium is coming up, and there's already a champagne shortage.
I hadn't actually thought of it that way. That's not bad. I'm liking that.
Yeah.
But you know,
Candy
I
and
don't
resourceful.
know exactly. I don't know exactly what it is I'm supposed to think about this millennium. I mean, I thought from watching our coverage all day that basically we're all a very happy world. But we know that it's a lot more serious than that. We know there are a lot of things which are still need to be resolved. But one big worldwide party isn't a bad way to start.
No, I think we could bring everybody together with fireworks. I think that's the key.
It's a nice occasion to begin to concentrate on what we have to do to make the world a better place, but at the same time appreciating how far we've come. There were moments, without being ponderous about it, in this century when rational men and women wondered if we would make it to the end, and now we have, and that's worth celebrating. And we've learned a lot over what has in many ways been obviously a tragic and at the same time engrossing century.
Right. I think that actually one of the things that we can do is, I mean, we watched the faces of children around the world.
Beautiful.
We hate to get too deep on you, but it's been a really moving experience.
Yeah.
Around the world, a lot of children staying up past their bedtimes, singing songs, singing in harmony, dancing. Clearly the faces of hope for the new generation for the next year.
Yeah.
All
years.
across the world. It's great to see the different colors, the different ages together. I don't know if you saw, was it Argentina? I think it was Argentina where they had the old guy who looked like Dr. Evil from, and then they had the little kid and they were both wearing white suits and singing together. That was a symbiosis.
Yeah, and it's very nice too to know that this is going to be an evening that's going to be important in the lives and the memories of so many people now. Something that people are going to carry around with them for years and have that common experience that we've been at least a small part of being able to share tonight with each other and the people watching.
Well, very shortly we're going to be going back around the world. We're going to go to Susan Rook, who's in our Earth station, getting ready to take over and tell us where we're going next.
I believe that we're going to Egypt. It will be a sunrise ceremony in Egypt. The scale of the celebrations in Egypt is absolutely, they have been absolutely remarkable. And Gwen and Scott, I must tell you that I've been watching you all afternoon, and the coverage, especially the scope of the coverage, has just been absolutely incredible. Now we are going to Egypt, where the Minister of Culture has commissioned a landmark event. Gwen, back to you.
Susan, I have to tell you, it's been wonderful. We hope that you were home actually asleep all afternoon and not watching us, but we're going to hand this over to you and to Will, and I want to thank Scott Simon for joining me. I want to wish Will Durst all the best all night. Happy New Year,
Happy New Year to
everybody.
you.
Thank you very much. And back to Susan Brooke and Earth Station, PBS Millennium 2000.
I got a mountain thing.
You ought to have one. Yes, I do need noise meter.
And now we're going to Egypt sunrise. After that, we will be going to London. As I said, the Ministry of Culture has planned an extensive celebration. We've seen extensive celebrations in Egypt. As you know, this is the 7th millennium in Egypt. It is the heart of the world's ancient civilization, a landmark event here. By the way, this is the final act of 12 Dreams of the Sun. It has been a 4-act electronic experience that has been composed and will be performed by renowned French artist Jean-Michel Jarre. Began at sunset. If you've been watching PBS for many hours, you will have seen it already. Began at sunset on New Year's Eve 1999. It will shortly end on this sunrise, January 1st, 2000. This performance, 12 Dreams of the Sun, is a co-production of the Cairo Opera House. Jean-Michel Jarre's Millennium Night in the Egyptian desert, and it is one of the most visual and entertaining celebrations of the turn of the century, and produced with the help of over 1,000 performers and musicians. The spectacular concert is transforming the Giza pyramids in the desert area, making the night that will be remembered in the heart and soul. The central stage has been situated on the Giza Plateau, creating a magical night when it was night, during which the sun dreams about our times, its own mythological Egyptian origins, life, death, and the future. And now at dawn, around 5:30 a.m. local time, Jean-Michel Jarre will come back on stage with his musicians to welcome in music and visuals the sunrise of the new millennium. Let's listen for a moment. The background of the 12 Dreams of the Sun is the mythology that the sun gave mankind 12 attributes and then concealed them. So you have the 12 Dreams of the Sun. Of over 50,000 people watching this performance in front of the Giza pyramids. The tale of the 12 Dreams of the Sun takes us from the past to the future. Visuals, music, and a blending of tradition and modernality and technology. Marking the birth of the 3rd millennium in Egypt with a sunrise celebration. And now we go to Greece. We distance ourselves for a while from the noisy metropolitan areas. You've been watching Times Square, Washington, D.C., and we are now in a holy monastery in Greece. This beautiful monastery is in the historic Mount Athos Peninsula. Unique monuments of Byzantine history and tradition are here. From here, the Garden of the Virgin Mary, as it is traditionally known, as we glimpse the first rays of light to the new millennium as the sun rises over Greece. We're looking at examples of Byzantine painting and scripture writing. There are monks singing the first liturgy of the day, Matins. Close of Matins takes place in the company of crowds of worshipers. The Byzantine monasteries were built centuries ago on the wild peaks, and you could see them in that shot just a moment ago, with gigantic rocky pillars. They remain monuments not only to architectural ingenuity, but really also to the enduring strength of the Greek Orthodox faith and tradition. Monastery houses important religious relics and priceless works of art, and you're seeing pictures of the Byzantine painting, the architecture, and the scriptural writing. As you're listening to the ritual of faith, a ritual that has remained unchanged for more than 1,000 years. Holy monastery of Vatouperio has, like all monasteries of Mount Athos, remained standing during some difficult times, fighting to keep the traditions of Greece and Orthodox religious practices of monastic life alive. Part of this ritual is the daily gathering of monks around the table, the last act of the Divine Liturgy. Like at the Last Supper, they gathered to break bread together, a symbolic reenactment repeated down through the ages.
Once a boy named George wanted to ride on a carousel, but he didn't have a nickel.
When I grow up, I'm going to become rich and build carousels that everybody can ride for free.
George F. Johnson founded the Endicott Johnson Shoe Company, and today in Broome County, New York, there are 6 carousels spinning into the millennium, and you can ride them all for free.
Good morning. About 7:30 in the morning on New Year's Day in Mount Athos, where no women and no female animals are allowed. If you ask me, that's a little too strict. My name is Will Durst, and this is the PBS Millennium 2000. Monks give up their identities willingly when they abandon the world. Now, Time magazine has listed some of the people whose names we don't know, who probably never intended to be as modest as monks, like Satoru Kato. He invented instant coffee in 1901. Edwin L. Peterson, he's either your hero or your worst nightmare. He's the guy who invented the answering machine in 1940. Yes. That has led to the present living hell that we know as automated voice mail or voice hell. Hugh Moore came up with paper cups in the year 1908. Now, Time didn't mention whether that's those little, cylindrical with the funnel kind of cups or the ones with the handles on that I knew as a little kid. And then, of course, there's Arthur Wayne, who must have had a lot of time on his hands. He came up with the crossword puzzle. I feel like I'm channeling Andy Rooney here, but you ever wonder whether there are Chinese crossword puzzles? I just don't know. In 1903, when there was barely a reason, Time says that Mary Anderson came up with windshield wipers, which is a bit scary that it took until 1923 for Garrett A. Morgan to invent the traffic light.
The first Caribbean Carnival party is well underway. It is the Caribbean Late Party. A live performance now by Dave Rudder, a smooth blend of all that is Caribbean. An international star, he is an extremely popular entertainer. He goes from a jazz-based inflection to the full dance and party songs that have become anthems all across the region. This carnival performance will be intercut with performances and events all day from the live Tobago segments. Humor, joy, and a darn good beat to bring in the new millennium. Pretty good combination. Carnival traditions, by the way, developed in Europe during the Middle Ages. 5th century to the 15th century as part of the ritual calendar of the Catholic Church.
Are you ready to jump into the new millennium? Say yeah! Yeah! Hands in the air. Hands in the air. Blacks in the air. Blacks in the air. Woman in the air. Woman in the air. Everything in the air. Everything in the air. Now hear me. On the count of 4. We're going to jump away. 4 and 4. We're going to jump and leap and roll. 1. Get ready to jump. Get ready to jump. 2. Put your hand in the air. Hand in the air. 1. We're going to jump away. 2. We're going to jump away. 1. 2. Everyone. Jump up. Raise it up. Raise it up. Raise it up. Jump up. Put it in the air. Hold up to the big jump. 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 Everybody ride the truck. Ride the truck, mama. Ride the truck. Ride the truck. Ride the truck, mama. Ride the truck. Ride the truck. Ride the truck, mama. Ride the truck.
David Rudder performing
Show me your right hand. Show me your right hand.
at the Carnival in the Caribbean.
Show me your right hand. Left, right, take it slow. Slow. If your big truck shut down, what's it gonna do to keep it rolling? All this soca crew. Let me see your fly motion. Wave it round and round. Get ready. I want to take this opportunity, low. Happy Millennium to the exotic crew. Happy Millennium to you. To my mother, happy Millennium. My whole family. But you see right now, you are family. And I want us to jump together. So everybody, raise your hand, up in the air. Raise your hand. We getting hot. We getting hot. We get one. Get ready to jump. Ready to jump. Get ready to jump. Get ready to jump. Two. One. We're going to jump. Two. Get ready to jump. One, two.
David Rudder, wishing everyone a happy millennium.
One, two, three, go! Ladies, come on, mommy, get there, dress up, no wine. You ready? Let me go! Oh, yes, sir.
Every time that we have a good time, there's just something to make our hands in the air. If I just shake my career, if I
David Rudder at the Caribbean Late Party, wishing everyone a happy millennium and echoing the theme of unity that we have seen all throughout the millennium celebrations. David Rudder, the singer, saying, right now, you are family.
You're watching PBS.
WRET TV, Channel 49, Spartanburg, South Carolina.
Tonight's festivities from the Caribbean. Well, you got to admit, they really know how to ring in the new. Hi, my name is Will Durst, and this is the PBS Millennium 2000 coverage. Coming up, sunrise in Athens. But first, you guys have been paying attention. You know, the end of the century, end of the decade, end of the year, end of the millennium. Been a lot of top 100 lists recently, where big-time professionals they rank the books, the sitcoms, and the recipes of the past millennium. I think these guys are getting paid by the word. So I came up with a few top 100 lists of my own as an example of my unswerving commitment to public service. Now let's start with the first one, the top 100 foods of the millennium. The first one, obviously, gruel, because gruel paid such a long homage. You know, the first maybe 400 years, it was mostly gruel. And then, well, grubs and algae and baba ganoush also had their little run, you know, and now they're falling into disfavor. I think bacon double cheeseburger is up there at number 2 just because of its recent popularity. Meat lover stuffed crust pizza is number 69. That's right up there. That's been, again, gaining a lot of popularity, mostly within the last couple of decades. It wasn't that big near the beginning of the millennium. Using yours bratwurst is number 94. I just threw that in because I'm from Milwaukee and they can always use a cheap plug. We're going to move on. We have plenty of stuff coming up. We got sunrise in Athens. I'm moving on to all sorts of things. There's the first light on the shores of Samoa, which is also coming up. And otherwise, I want to thank you for being here on PBS. We don't have commercials. We are spending a lot of time in your house. This is the 20th hour. This is the 20th hour for us. And we're looking forward to another 5 or 6 more. Is that it? So let's go to the first light of Samoa in the millennium We got Susan Rook standing by in the Earth Station. Susan, are you there for us?
Yes, absolutely, I sure am. But you know what, Will? I'm not sure where we're going. We might be going to Athens. You mentioned the Greek sunrise. We are going to Athens, the Greek sunrise. This is the Temple of Poseidon. Sun will be rising from the sea to shine upon the tall, slender Doric columns of the temple. The greatest living singer of traditional folk music, singing a traditional song from Thrace. The peninsula of Cape Sonyan juts into the Aegean Sea. Dionysus, gently welcoming us in song to the new light of this new millennium. Symbolism of this in traditional song is the purity and the power of the human voice. Simple wisdom in the words of the song, and absolute harmony with the austere majesty of that marble temple. The Doric columns still remaining of the temple, which Athenians dedicated to one of their greatest gods, Poseidon, appropriately enough, the sea god. Since the peninsula of Cape Sonyan juts into the Aegean Sea.
Γλυκό χαράζει μέρα μαύρο πουλάκι μου, γλυκό χαράζει μέρα το χελιδόνάκι μου. Πάντα πουλάκια στη βοσκή. Όλα ζευγαρωμένα μαύρο πουλάκι μου, όλα ζευγαρωμένα το χελιδόνάκι μου.
Sunrise over the Aegean Sea. You see the white Doric columns that remain. This first temple was destroyed by the Persians in 480 BC During the time of Pericles, the decade 450 to 440 BC, construction of a new temple began. Not the same time that they were building the Parthenon in Athens. Then from the end of the 2nd century BC, the Temple of Poseidon at Sunyan suffered the fates of most, crumbling in the open air. And now we are going to Samoa. So from sunrise to sunset. We're watching sunset in Samoa, the last sunset of 1999. Samoa will be the last country on Earth to say goodbye to this millennia. It's located about 1,800 miles northeast of New Zealand. If you were watching very early in the morning, you saw New Zealand greet the new millennium. Known for many years as Western Samoa, the country changed its official name to Samoa in 1997. Celebration now honoring ancestors who have helped create the society and the culture that is today. The Samoan Islands were probably settled from Fiji some 3,500 years ago. Military formation. Settlers from Samoa may then have migrated to other islands of Polynesia, including Hawaii, Tahiti, and New Zealand. It is considered one of the most successful democracies in the world. An independent island nation in the Southern Pacific. As we're watching this military salute to the end of 1999, it's interesting to note that American soldiers were stationed in Western Samoa during World War II, but no battles were actually fought there. After the war, Western Samoa became a trust territory of the UN in New Zealand and continued as the administering authority. Became independent in 1962, the first nation in the Pacific Islands, excluding New Zealand. Samoa is the nearest country to the international date line. It's about 6:30 in the evening, 7 o'clock there, and you're watching as the sun is setting. Samoa, close neighbors to New Zealand, a treaty of friendship signed with New Zealand in 1962 guarantees a huge degree of cooperation and association. But New Zealand has no special responsibilities for the island's affairs. New Zealand, of course, entered the millennium hours ago. By the way, the Samoan Islands east of this line form the United States territory of American Samoa. At the last sunset of the year 1999 in Samoa.
From our nation's capital and around the globe, this is PBS Millennium 2000.
What personality trait do people of the world need more of? I think enthusiasm. More of a sense that we can do it together, but that there isn't anything that anyone can put in our way that will stop us from realizing our dreams or moving forward, no matter how small our dreams are, no matter how large our dreams are. The enthusiasm to move forward in this new century, to make life better for our families and for ourselves.
I have enthusiasm. I have enthusiasm to move to American Samoa. Now, the weather here, don't get me wrong, the weather here in D.C. is like 55 degrees, but that was beautiful. That was the last sunset of December 31st, 1999. The shores of Samoa in the South Pacific. Hi, my name is Will Durst, and this is the PBS Millennium 2000 coverage. Coming up, we're going to go to Mexico City for midnight there, and also on the rundown, as we've seen so many times during this New Year's marathon. Fire plays a large part for the traditional people. It's New Year and time for a new flame. There's all sorts of superstitions. My wife, for the New Year, demands that we eat black-eyed peas. In Mexico, if you want to travel, you're supposed to carry a suitcase around the block. If you want money in the New Year, take some coins and paste them to your front door, which seems to me that you're going to lose money. Make sure that you sweep the house thoroughly and sweep right out the doors. That gets rid of all the bad vibes from the past year. And if you want to be lucky in love for the New Year, wear red underwear. If only it were that simple. Of course, I'm not taking any chances. In the Philippines, superstitions mix traditions from both China and Spain. For many Filipinos, some of these things would be familiar. Wear polka dots so you have lots of coins in the New Year on New Year's Eve. Make sure that you do what you want to do for the rest of the year. That's why many Filipinos insist on spending evening with the family, and why many don't. Okay, we're going to continue this coverage around the world for the millennium. I'm Will Durst. PBS Millennium 2000 will continue.
To order the original soundtrack for PBS Millennium 2000, call PBS Home Video at 1-800-PLAY-PBS. PBS Millennium 2000 is made possible by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.
A spectacular greeting of the new millennium from Mexico City. The huge central plaza called Zocalo Plaza. It is in Mexico City, the country's capital, metropolitan area of close to 20 million people. As you can see, thousands of people are there for the celebrations. Some 500,000 spectators. The weather a little cool but clear. We're looking at one of two main stages, one in front of the cathedral where the National Symphony Orchestra will be placed. The other a large revolving stage surrounding the main flagstaff in the center of the plaza. Dignitaries celebrating right along with folks who are just jammed into that plaza. This is all part of the 2000 Today program. There's an underground station that will be the main access for artists to the stage. All the dressing rooms and many of the technical facilities will be situated inside the subway station. And now we have the final countdown to 2000. 4 seconds, 3 seconds to 2000 in Mexico City. Feliz Año 2000 to Mexico City. Live coverage in Zocalo Plaza. Beautiful, haunting, and of course, romantic guitar music. And now the roar of the crowd as the fireworks extravaganza begins in Mexico City, now celebrating the year 2000, the beginning of the new millennium. Celebrations, by the way, are expected to continue all through the night. The crowd counting down, popping champagne bottles, and now fireworks.
Las que cantaba el rey David, hoy por ser día de su santo, se las cantamos aquí. De tierra, de tierra, y norte que amaneció, y a los pajarillos
mariachi band, traditional Mexican music as fireworks light up the night sky. The crowd singing along. Fernando de la Mora singing the traditional birthday song to Mexico. One the crowd knows and loves, and of course, it's like along with.
Quisiera ser un San Juan, quisiera ser un San Pedro, a venirte a saludar con la música del cielo. Volaron 4 palomas por toditos los lugares. El cerro y nuevo milenio te deseamos felicidades. A ver todos, con jazmines y flores, este día voy a adornar. Hoy por ser nuevo milenio, te venimos a cantar.
Fernando de la Mora, celebrating the year 2000, the traditional birthday song at Zocalo Plaza in Mexico City. Country's capital, metropolitan area with a population.
You know the day destroys the night, night divides the day. Try to run, try to hide, break on through to the other side, break on through to the other side, break on through to the other side, yeah.
Well, first we saw Midnight in Mexico City. And the second we saw, it looked like not Y2K, but Y-2K. Either that or one of the board meetings for the PBS Millennial coverage. Hi, my name is Will Durst, and this is the PBS Millennial 2000 coverage. Coming up, we're going to go to New York City's Madison Square Garden, where the headline act is Billy Joel. Party in New York is still going strong. About 5 after 1, New Year's Day. Now, what would you be doing in years past on New Year's? Well, in ancient Egypt, you'd be drinking beer while dancing girls entertained you. By the way, they'd be wearing cones of scented fat on their heads and not much of anything else. See, as they danced, the fat would melt, the perfume would waft, and the girls would glisten. I did mention they were pretty much naked, didn't I? In ancient Rome, you'd settle down on your left side on a couch with 2 other people and carefully choreograph your table manners. On the menu, maybe a souffle of little fish and Roman meat patties, well seasoned with fermented fish sauce, and your Greek slave would entertain you with little harp music, and you might have an actor read some satiric verses about folks you knew. In ancient China, you'd call some friends over for a meal of foods with symbolic meaning. Now, maybe their names sound like money, or there might be dumplings shaped like little purses, and you play drinking games, sort of like rock, paper, scissors, only the loser had to chug a glass of wine, like playing Hi Bob in college, where you watch Bob Newhart, and every time someone says, "Hi Bob," you have to take a slug of beer. Now, in the ancient Midwest, where I grew up, it was a lot like the whole Egypt thing, except for the scented fat. Did I mention that Billy Joel is next? My name is Will Durst. This is the PBS Millennium 2000 coverage. Susan, are you with us? Where are we going?
Absolutely, and we are going to Madison Square Garden, where you are absolutely right. Billy Joel is performing a concert at Madison Square Garden. Only a few lucky, very lucky, only a few thousand people will be treated to the show of Joel's concert. except we get it. So that's really cool. Well, by the way, I didn't know the Midwest of the United States qualifies as an ancient civilization. But I made a note of that. Billy Joel in concert at Madison Square Garden. Let's